in Queens together, and he's doing a phenomenal job here. And also my brother, Carlos Guevara, for the invitation to be here with you today. So with that, I want to thank you very much. And I want to read some facts to you that I think you'll find very interesting. Did you know that only 1 in 18 leaders of technology firms is Black or Latino? The jobs of the future are in science and tech, but too many are missing out on the technical revolution. And why is that? The answer is there's a problem in the pipeline. Not enough students are exposed to science and technology, and as a result, not enough students choose those careers. In the United States, there are more than 3 unemployed individuals for every 1 job listing. But when it comes to STEM jobs, the ratio is more than turning on its head. For every 2 open STEM jobs, there's only 1 qualified unemployed individual. The gap between the jobs we have and the skills our workforce has to offer are far too wide. By 2018, there could be 2.4 million unfilled STEM jobs. The message is clear. We need to prepare our students for the jobs of the future, and the jobs of the future require practical skills, math and science. It used to be that you could just graduate with a liberal arts degree and get a job, and a college education was enough. But not so anymore. The skill gaps are real, and we need to find ways to fix it. So here's what I propose. More and better computer coding classes in schools at all grade levels. We need to get students comfortable with technology early. We also need to make sure that better science and math classes are brought into schools that serve minority communities. Only 29% of high schools with large minority populations offer calculus, but in schools with smaller minority populations, that number is 55%. Exposure is key. To that end, we also need more after-school programs that make math, science, and technology fun. No internet puts kids at a disadvantage for homework and skill building. Lastly, we should create incentive programs to encourage college students to major in the STEM field and stick with it. The attrition rate in STEM majors for college students is high, and it's not good enough to start with a STEM major. We need to make sure our students see it through. Just as in the days of the Industrial Revolution, the population had to learn new skills and shift with the changing times. Today is the same, and we've got to prepare our students to participate in the technology revolution. We must move ahead of the curve or we'll be left behind. Preparing our citizens and students for science and tech careers will not only raise the fortunes of the individual New Yorkers, it will also lift our entire economy. A STEM job is a ticket for a better life, but we must make sure that everyone, both rich and poor, from every borough is able to harness the challenges ahead. And I'm very proud to be here today with all of you. I hope you have a very successful day. To the young students who are here, I want to congratulate you on your achievements and the wonderful jobs that you've done. That was a very great film that you put together, and I think it just goes to show that you really are the future here. So I want to let you know that we'll continue to fight for you in Albany to make sure that you get all the resources necessary so that you can achieve your dreams. And I just want to say thank you once again for allowing me to be here. Thank you.
So thank you. And now I'd like to invite our panelists up who could hopefully help answer the questions of how are we going to fill that gap, right? So if our panelists can please take a seat at the table. As they're coming up, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about each of them. You can read their full bios on pages 7 and 8 of the brochure. But we have Jerome Dazzell, our representative from the business sector. Jerome is the director of the new training initiatives and resident Salesforce administrator and developer for Perscalis. Perscalis is a nonprofit organization providing technology education, access, training, and job placement services for people in low-income communities. Professor Stephen Powers, a representative from higher education, is a professor of education and reading at Bronx Community College, but he also brings his experience as an elementary school principal, middle school teacher, and an assistant principal for a high school. Cindy Gao, our nonprofit representative on today's panel, is the Chief of Staff for the New York City Foundation for Computer Science Education. Cindy also brings her experience as a biomedical engineer and her work at Columbia University's Earth Institute. And Dr. Matthew Cotter is the director of College Now at Bronx Community College. College Now is a program that enables high school students to take college classes, and as the director of that program, ensuring the students have the skills to make that transition is critical. Dr. Cotter also brings his experience as a professor and writer. So our first question is for each of the panel members. If we could start with Stephen. What are the skills needed to succeed in the 21st century job market?
I think the skills that most of us, most of the students that we teach, the ones that we need are the ability to adapt. The job that I started doing back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, when I began teaching, the job has changed. I used chalk, I used a blackboard. Actually, I had a really new room, I had a green board. And now those are off the walls and not in use. And dry erase boards evolved into smart boards, into projectors, into all the tech that we use. So the adaptability for the faculty at a college who are still using chalk and the blackboard, no offense, but that time has passed, and we need to move and we need to get ready for the next set. I've asked that we get touch plasma screens in all our classrooms. Something about
not
money.
in the budget.
Something about money. Yeah, the answer was no.
Jerome?
So I think one of the things that we've seen in our organization and serving young adults and adults as well is that there's a huge gap in their soft skills, right? So our generation of kids and the students that we serve, we see that they're well in tune in terms of technology, but it's really hard for them to translate that into those key soft skills that's required to, whether it is marketing themselves for that job, and more importantly, keeping their employment. Prior to kids enrolling into, or anyone enrolling into any one of our programs, one of the things that we see as a consistent theme with them not being employed is just lack of bad work ethic. And that means it's not necessarily that they do not have the technical skills to keep those jobs, but it's tardiness, not showing up to work on time, not being able to present professionally. So I think there's a huge area and there's a huge gap there for folks to succeed.
Thank you. And Cindy?
I think I absolutely agree with Jerome. Some of my mentees actually who are in the Code Now program very much lack the social skills necessary to succeed. I think to add to that, there's a lack of role models, I think, in the workplace for people that they can clearly identify with. And I think that's something that we are helping them to overcome by finding technical talent in the workforce in the different companies who not only have similar demographic backgrounds, but also similar career and educational backgrounds that they can relate to and learn from.
Matthew?
Well, a problem well put is half solved. And so what we try and do at the high school level is to have students develop an appreciation for the depths of their ignorance. Again, I think sometimes the way that the world can be a very scary place, and in between getting to the world that's a scary place, you have this thing called college, which is an incredibly scary place. And so I think by arresting certain tendencies and dispelling certain mythologies about what lies ahead, I think that we can remedy some of the challenges that my colleagues have brought up.
Thank you. And Stephen, can you speak specifically about what skills our students are missing when they come to college?
I think it's both sides of missing, and that they have and don't know how to use properly, or that we don't know how to draw on properly. Students, especially coming to the community colleges, are at a deficit in math, reading, writing. Those are test scores, whether it's SATs, Regents, the CUNY entrance tests. When they come into the school setting, they definitely have skills. I mean, most of the students can work faster with their thumbs than I can type with 10 fingers. The students have absolute ability. When they're playing in a digital gaming environment, there's no give up. They have a stick-to-itiveness. If, the little character dies, they just start all over again. And this is true for pre-K, K, all the way through 12. We don't take advantage of that, so they're bringing in skills that we don't teach to or work to. But at the same time, they're coming in with deficits. I teach a first-year seminar class. Most of the students who I teach in their first semester of college are not proficient in Word, and I would not term them competent in PowerPoint. And these are two basic, and I'll go open source as well. They don't have a familiarity with most word processing or any word processing program, and presentation software, SlideShare or any of the other free ones or the purchase ones, PowerPoint, just are not what they do and what they use, and it is what we expect in terms of presentations.
Thank you. And Jerome, what skills are students missing when they go into the workforce, and do you think that there is a digital divide?
Yeah, I definitely think that there's a digital divide, and in addition to the soft skills that folks are missing, there's some, aspect of their technical capabilities as well. And just not to go off topic a bit, but just recently, I would say late last year, we've heard of this online course called Udacity. Right, so Udacity is offering these, what they call nano degrees, right? So with the nano degree, you can, in essence, for $200 per month, you can pay for 9 to 12 months, depending on the length of the course, to earn a very skill-specific oriented job, whether that's in front-end web development, web development, or coding. The problem is with that, and where we see the lack of skills is for folks who are in poverty. Right, and which are most of the folks we serve, they don't have the means or the capabilities of affording, programs such as nano degrees, much less even affording college. While college students, for employers still holds, the return on investment, and that investment is not necessarily their college education, it's that debt, right? I think we are somewhat disruptors to the college system, disruptors in the sense that, okay, we are seeing that there's a huge skills gap here, and we are tapping into the unemployed, the underemployed, who, in essence, they stay at home, and all they do is research, learn things on their own. And these are folks that we really want to get into that workplace, right? So just helping them to bridge that digital divide, and by giving them free training, we feel that we can make a huge impact in their local economy and, more importantly, in their financial situation for themselves and their families.
Which, if I'm correct, right, you have an 89% placement rate, right?
Yes.
Job placement rate for people that get trained through your program.
That's correct.
Cindy, how does computer science education ensure students graduate from high school with the 21st century skills that they need?
I think Assemblyman Moya mentioned before that there's going to be over 2 million jobs available in the tech sector, and I think only a third of that will be filled by actual Americans, and a lot of that will be unfilled or outsourced. So what we want to work on is really improve the computer science education in the K through 12 space, so we don't create more people that, as Jerome mentioned, who are underemployed or unemployed. So what we are trying to do is incorporate a lot of that curriculum into existing high school and middle school and eventually elementary school education. So when you graduate from high school, you have the option to go and get a job directly if that is what you would like to do. And it will also give you the skills to be more ready to go to college if that is what you choose to do. And I think a lot of people right now, technology is in everybody's lives, but I'm sure many students will be much more willing and happy to be creators of those technologies instead of just consumers of those technologies. So when you see a game on your phone or on your laptop, you play, you enjoy it, but I think you get a lot more satisfaction if you actually contributed to making that game. Or if you're a journalist and you want to understand how to be a better reporter, and knowing those technologies will make your presentation and your storytelling much more effective. Things like New York Times, which is a print, Goliath, and a lot of people right now think print is dead. But what the New York Times has really done successfully is to really bridge the gap between print and digital and understand how to better tell the stories and to convey the ideas to the audience that exists now, which digest a lot of news and content online.
Thank you. And Matthew, what advantages does an early college experience provide students as they transition to college?
Well, first and foremost, the students are learning about the ways and means of surviving college while they're taking college-level courses. So, but I think what's unique about college now is that we are, every class that we offer has woven into it miniature sort of like moral lessons about what's waiting for them once they get to the college experience. So to go back to the plumbing the depths of their ignorance again, you know, many students, when they are in high school, they're told that they should go to college. They kind of have an idea that they're going to go to college, and then they're just told to apply to college, but yet there's a massive gap between those two experiences, and College Now is one of many programs that we feel sort of arrests certain tendencies that would otherwise imperil their prospects at the college level. So I think that woven into College Now is the fact that they are college students, but at the same time, we are a cold water program, so to speak, but we have a towel, and so we are in the assurance and acculturation business. And so I think that of the many alternatives that are there, we feel that ours is the most viable because we demystify what's waiting for them while at the same time empowering them to develop a certain level of independence and, more importantly, survival skills, so that not only do they get into college, which used to be one goal, but now not only do they get in, but they actually graduate faster.
Thank you. The next question is for all of you. There's a constant debate about whether technology is distracting and reducing productivity, both in the workforce and in school. How do we demythify this thinking? Stephen, if you want to take it first.
Sure. I was trying to send a text while you were reading, but it didn't work. I think, is technology a distraction? Yes, like anything else is a distraction. Sports can be a distraction. Life can be a distraction. Guys, girls can be distractions to, you know, whomever is looking. I think distraction, if we take a better focus on what the college students are able to do, find strengths rather than dwell on weaknesses, find areas that they want to work in, where they want to move into careers. You know, there are openings in careers in computer science. It doesn't mean that you have to have a PhD in computer science to get into those careers. So I think we need to be more aware of the distractions and teach to the distractions. You know, students, one of the presentations that was done today was about texting. Students are texting in class. So, you know, the professor, he's a math professor, I believe here, sends his students texts reminding them, the homework is up, you have 7 days. The homework is 3 days. You now have 24 hours to get your homework in. And it goes to the text, you know, to the cell phone so that the student gets it immediately rather than waiting for an email, you know, to go in. I teach a first-year seminar class, and we are assigned a mentor who works with us, and while he takes over the class, I have my entire roster in my cell phone. And students who are not present, I send them a text and ask them, why are they blowing off my class? Because I want them there. And it was really very good. The second week, after one guy skipped the class, he comes in and goes, he really does text you. He stalks you. Don't miss his class. And, you know, it works,
That works,
for
right?
some students, and for others, they still disappear. But I think some are pulled back in. So again, I think we need to look at, not every weakness is a weakness in the view of both parties. I think we can look at some things and use them as strengths.
Thank you. Jerome, do you want to take it next?
Yeah, sure. I agree with Stephen, and you know, I think it's all about how we use it and utilize it for our students to learn. So it's just utilizing it, whether it's gamifying a classroom learning experience, but just finding out what is it that, you know, drives their learning. What is it that they are in tune to, and just either finding apps. You know, we're a world that's built around apps, and there's an app out there for everything. So it's just finding that app and finding a solution that can help in their learning experience. And I think that's not on the students, it's on us as facilitators or course producers to, solve that problem?
I think, obviously agree with everything that's been said. One thing is, when we use technology, it's very passive, right? We have our phones and we don't really think about what we're doing. We have the TV in front of us. We don't really think about, why it's there and how it works. So I think it's really to change how students look at technology and think about how they can be a part of creating that technology. People can watch TV for 10 hours and you can watch the Kardashians, or you can watch a documentary and, educational programs. So I think it's all about how you see using those methods to convey a message that you want the students to walk away with. And the same with, any sort of technology, and especially with, computer science. It's something that the students can get involved in. It's one subject, I think, where the students can learn much faster than many teachers, and I think a lot of teachers probably feel a bit more trepidation when they want to pick it up and teach the subject. But I think when the students feel empowered and they see it, they can start creating, then they will run with it, and they will basically change their mindset and see something less as a distraction, as a tool for them to implement in the future.
Which we saw with the videos a few minutes ago, right? Matthew?
Well, I mean, as somewhat of a technophobe, my background is in history, so I love smelly old books and archives. So I try and balance that pursuit with, how technology has actually made research easier for a lot of us. So there's, I guess I have a two-pronged answer. So one is that we demystify technology by showing students that there are big questions about the way that the world is and their place in it, and here are the online resources and I guess interfaces within which that they can begin to refine the kinds of questions so that they can lead a good life. But in a more practical sense, what we do, especially with College Now, is we demystify technology by offering students who are curious about the way that the world is and, more importantly, how it works. We offer them courses in STEM. And a lot of those STEM courses have woven into it, you cannot do this course unless you know everything about Office 365, for example. But we have, many of you may or may not know that Bronx Community College is is the only CUNY campus that has an automotive technology program, and we have, a state-of-the-art sustainable energy center. And so what we do to demystify technology is to show that technology really is just that. It is that know-how within which that they can apply a certain methodology to the solution of very meaningful problems that affect not only just their individual lives, but more importantly, the Bronx. And so by doing stuff, we can demystify technology rather than my relative diatribes about the overarching reliance on technology. So I think reconciling a student's vision of what the good life is and the means by which they want to achieve it, and show that technology can be nurturing, it doesn't have to be a hindrance, I think is one of our paramount charges as educators.
Thank you. And for the last question, I'm going to start with Matthew, so you don't have to go last this time. How do you think the future worker or student will balance the 3 Ps, and the 3 Ps being personal, professional, and e-persona?
Could you repeat the beginning of the question, please?
How do we think the future worker and student will balance the 3 Ps of personal, professional, and e-persona?
Well, I would be remiss to say that those are mutually exclusive Ps. I think one of the challenges that we face is the discourse about education itself. And so I think that we need to have more robust conversations about what it is that we are teaching, how it is that we are teaching, and I guess in the spirit of this conference, what relationship technology has to the furtherance of those goals. I think then and only then, again, I started out by saying a problem well put is half solved. I think then and only then some of the problems that saddle the Bronx in particular, but more importantly, the country as a whole, can be that much more capable of being ameliorated.
Cindy?
I think so. I'm old enough to still remember life without internet. And I remember first going online and signing up for AOL and Instant Messenger, and life changed. And then, you're much more able to talk to your friends and communicate in different ways. And I think back then it was definitely a distraction. And now I think a lot of these tools have become more collaborative, right? When you're working, you can just immediately reach your coworkers or somebody you need help from, and it's like a phone a friend, immediate phone a friend every day, any minute of the day. And I think nowadays, the millennials are really, I think their understanding of their world is not separate from technology, right? Their persona is their e-persona. It's completely one in all, and their professional life is connected to their personal life. So I think to really be prepared for work, you have to understand what your presence is, and that includes your physical presence, and it includes your e-digital presence. And I think to make all of those a cohesive story will really better serve you to look for a job, to look for a partner, to look for to accomplish those dreams. And I think it's impossible to separate any of those three things into their different buckets. I think now everything is in this one bucket, and then students just have to be a lot more cognizant of what image they're portraying, they're presenting to the world. And I think as teachers, as educators, we can really help the students understand how to better present themselves to colleagues, friends, family, and eventual employers.
Cindy took my answer. I totally agree with her, and I think there's somewhat of a catch-22 here, because I do remember growing up and going to high school where the internet was not that prevalent, and you still needed to require on books to do your research and whatnot. And with the huge digital presence now for as Cindy mentioned with our students, I think there was somewhat of a disconnect in terms of how folks or how our students are functioning in a social setting, right? I see that there's a little bit of there's a lot less of that. They're high functioning self in a social setting, whether it's just part of a social arena or whether it's part of their work environment. And I think it's just finding the right balance between that. It's super important.
Thank you.
They all took my answer. But I think the three correctly stated, they are very, very interrelated. I don't think you can separate them without killing either one or two of them. For the personal, professional life, I think the digital skills that are required, I think the application of skills, and the whole e-persona. I think our society, Facebook matters, Twitter matters. I mean, all day long, Carlos has been encouraging us to Twitter, to put in a tweet and boost up a number. And the number of followers somebody has determines their level of popularity. And we are judged to a degree by how many friends we have on Facebook. And these things actually matter. But employers also look at people's Facebooks when you go and apply for a job. So if you are, applying for a job at a bank, and on your Facebook you have a page of you trying to steal money from a bank, I don't think the bank is going to hire you. And these things are checked out, and they are public, and we think we take them down, but they are cached somewhere, and they can be found. So I think as the students go forward, more and more I find the students are very aware of their presence online. When I teach use of ePortfolio and tell them they have an option to make it public within just BCC or keep it private, more students now are keeping it, private and making me a co-author of the ePortfolio, so the only people that see it are me and them, and I only see it because they want me to grade it. If I wasn't grading it, I would not be looking at their ePortfolio, and it's an academic, tool. So I think students are becoming more aware of their presence online, and I think they're being more cautious properly. And I think personal and professional, again, the adaptability. We do change. You can remember life without the internet. I can remember life without TV and telephone. I think as change continues to occur, we will express ourselves differently within the limits or the expanse of technology, too.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us today as panelists, but also thank you each for the work that you do with the community and our students. And I hope that we can continue the rich conversation during the Wine and Cheese event that's following this. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
One last announcement before we go to the exciting wine and cheese. We invite you to come to the next Bronx EdTech Showcase next year that is going to be hosted now at Lehman College on May 6, 2016. And we really want to recognize and acknowledge again everybody, all those red t-shirts that have been around. And I would like to ask the audience to please help me in thanking them for all the work they've done to make this conference a really success. So once again, as Steve was mentioning, don't forget to tweet. You won't get chances to get your prizes. Please join us at the cocktail is across the door. The art gallery just as you exit, just across the hall, and we can continue the discussions. Thank you very much for coming to the Bronx EdTech Showcase.